Hey everybody, thanks for joining me for Quick Tip Thursday. This is Nicole with Topaz. Today we're going to be talking about creating stars with Topaz Star Effects when you don't actually have a light source or the light source isn't being detected by the program. There are just a couple simple workflows that you can go through to get those stars exactly where you want them. So you see here I have 3 tips for you. Within your image, if you do not have a light source, or even if a light source is not being detected where you want it, you can use the paintbrush tool to create a very small dot for your star center. Then when you take that dot into, or when you take that image into the program, it will most likely recognize that dot as a center because it's going to be a white dot. Tip 2 is using just a tad bit of color in your paint dots to create colored stars, so you don't have to necessarily have a bunch of white stars. You can have slightly yellow, blue, red, because stars can take on different colors. Tip number 3, if you're working with an image where you think that it should be recognizing an area as your light source and it doesn't, there is a reason for that, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. But you can take in sections of your image if Star Effects is not creating a star where you need it to. Then it will most likely recognize those areas as light sources, and I'll show you an example of that here in a moment. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. All right, I'm starting off here with this diamond image, which, as you can tell, has tons of different areas that are going to be considered light sources within the image. But I'm going to make a couple, I'm just going to take it in first to show you. Again, this is a quick tip. We're not really going over the actual introduction to Star Effects. So let me just jump right in. And what I'm going to do is get to one of my Jewel Sparkle presets over here, maybe one that has a lower threshold like this one. And I will take my threshold down and see what happens. Okay, I'm at 100% right now, and I see a couple areas that I might want to be considered light sources. So maybe if this area right over here is where I actually wanted my sparkle, let's see here. I'm going to take my star settings, go to the remove, take my brush up, and take the majority of these out real quick. Okay, this is something that people run into all the time that we're getting quite a few questions about. So I'm just removing all these so you can tell exactly what's happening. I'm going to leave some of those in there just for fun. But let's say I get to this point in my workflow and I want to add one more little sparkle right here. What people are trying to do is go to this add brush and go right into the area and just add it in. Well, it's not actually there. The only way that you can actually add a star is if it's already created by the program, if it's being recognized as a light source. And there are so many other bright points in this particular image that this area, even though it is bright, is not actually being considered a light source. So to solve that issue, very, very simple. If you're determined to get that sparkle to happen right in that area, here's my quick workflow tip for you. I would take my paintbrush, whatever program you are using. I am using CS5 here today. I would just take my paintbrush tool, get a pretty hard brush, pretty small brush as well, depending upon what size you want your star to be, maybe about 10 pixels. That's a little big for this particular image, so let's just take that down a notch, maybe right there. I'm going to open up my foreground color and see where I'm at here, and I'm just going to leave it as a bright white star at that white color, and I'm just going to say OK. And right on the edge here where a sparkle might actually occur, I'm just going to make a dot, and you can see it right here on that little edge. Now pay attention right there as we take that in, because that should create a star for us. And let's take that Jewel Sparkle. One. Okay, and I just want to show you right here by taking all of these stars away. Now coming to my add brush and just clicking on the area that I was clicking on before, and you can see that that star was created right where the dot is. The dot is the center of my star. So you can see a before and after. Here's before, here's after. It's as easy as that. And the middle of these stars are going to be a brighter area anyway, so it really doesn't take away from what you're trying to do. This is great for if you're trying to put, let's say, you have some text that you want to put little sparkles on the edges of and kind of be really graphic stars that are pretty obvious. Well, this is an easy way to add these really beautiful star effects to those graphics. So that is one tip. Now I want to show you something else real quick. Let me cancel out. And I'm just going to go over here to this gradient that I created just a minute ago. It's a little bright. Actually, I would have liked it to be a little bit darker. I was kind of trying to go with a galaxy type of look, but I'm just going to go with it. So I want to show you the varying types of stars that you can do. So I'm going to stay here on my white color, and I'm just going to say OK and make a few dots here. And this is just as an example. Now I'm going to come in here back into my foreground color and just put a little, not even almost imperceptible amount of aqua. So let's do that. Now I'm going to make a little bit bigger star, or a little bit bigger dot down here, maybe over here. Go back in, maybe do some of this pinkish purple color. Maybe even go a little bit bigger. You get the idea. Maybe I'll do one more just for fun. We'll go green and do a big green one over here. Take those down. And I'm just going to now take this into Star Effects. And this is really how easy it is. What Star Effects is trying to do is locate the points of light within your image. So whether that is created by you or it's in your original image, that is the technology behind it. It auto-detects the lightest areas of your image, which are usually your light sources. But sometimes they can just be dots on a piece of design here. So if we want to, let's go to a sun flare just to show you exactly what's going on. So this is going to be a very saturated preset. That's why you're seeing the green and pink color of these stars, because that's the color that we created, even though it's a very, very light pink and green that we put in there. That is what's showing up. Now the reason only these 3 stars are showing up is because those are the largest stars. And in my main adjustments, my threshold is set very high, so only the largest stars are going to be affected. As I take this down, you'll see more stars show up at varying sizes, and now we have them all because it's all pretty big for this particular image. And then you can come in with your color adjustments. Take that saturation down if you don't want it as obvious as that. And you can do a lot of really cool things. So all you really have to have is that light point. So that is my quick tip for you on creating it where you don't have any sort of light source at all. Now I want to show you a very common thing that's happening where people are questioning, saying, hey, what's going on? I do have a light source. Why isn't it detecting it? So here in this particular spider web image, we have tons of different lights being reflected. The sun's actually being reflected in these dewdrops on the spider web. It's quite beautiful, and I say, okay, I want to create a natural glow for every single one of these, even these really small ones. So let's see what happens if we just take it in without doing a selection. So the first thing I'm going to do is maybe just come to, I'll come to the city lights, and actually, I believe my threshold isn't very high. So there we are. Starting to see that glow. I'm actually going to take my luminance down. I'm just trying to get a really beautiful glow, but I want you guys to see which ones are being affected. So I'm going to make that a little bit obvious at this point. Take my glow up. Okay, so these are the light sources that are being detected. As you can tell up here in the very small dewdrops on these spider webs, and even some of the larger ones, they're not having the light enhancement, this glow being added to it. The reason is that there is a limitation on how many stars can be created in one image. This is due to speed of the program. This is due to, well, pretty much it's just due to the fact that if we let it create as many stars as we wanted on this image, it would really take 30 minutes to process because there's so many different stars. And you might say, there really doesn't seem all that many, but because we have this sun flare going on down here, if we look at our stars only, you can tell there's stars upon effect on top of each other. Now, the limitation is set at 500 stars. So here we have now gone to 500 stars. And even some of these larger stars have a little bit more of effect on top of each other. So that's what's happening. Just because it's one light source, just because it's this one sun, doesn't mean that it's just going to be one enhancement. This is several enhancement. It is putting several different stars in this one sun area. So one way to battle this, let's go back to our combined. Again, let's look at the before and after one more time. Here's before. Here's after. We're trying to get these little stars, and we haven't gotten them. Our threshold is as far as low as it can go, which means every star that the program has detected is being shown. So let me cancel out of there, and all I'm going to do is make a quick selection of the top of my image and just take that selection as opposed to the entire area. So let's go in. Now let's go to that city lights again. I think this is a different one. There we go. Okay. Right away, you should be able to tell that everything is being detected. I'm going to take my luminance down, my glow up, so you can really see it. Here's before, here's after. Even on this little tiny dewdrops, it's now being detected. So those are my quick tips for you on allowing either the creation of stars with no light sources or the creation or the ability to recognize certain areas that are light sources that aren't with the original image. So let me show you this. This is before and after, just using that little glow, before and after. And with that, let me answer some questions. If you have any questions, you can put them into your questions module, and we'll all answer a couple things that I might have gone over that you have questions about. Dave says, right, so if I remove the large sun in the bottom, then I could add some of the smaller stars on top. Yes, Dave, because there is the limitation of stars that are created in one image. So in this particular example, or actually there are tons of examples when you have maybe a city scene where you have tons of different lights coming through, glowing through. Let's see if I have an image. I do. This is before and after, before using the glow technique, before and after. Very beautiful glow. But look right here up front in this particular building. Let me show you before and after. These lights are not being affected at all by that glow factor. So if I just did a selection of the bottom half of my image, then these lights would then be affected by that glow. And then I could take in the top half of the city and have all of those affected as well. So it really depends on if you want all of your light sources to really give off the enhancement, or if you only want your brightest light sources. But it's only going to do up to 500 enhancements in one image. So that's really the limitation that you're looking at. Oh, Scott, great question. Scott says, if you erase some of the stars in a portion of the photo, does it make up the 500 in other portions? It does not, because if you remember, when you go into Star Effects and you put on the Star Effects, let's get rid of that, and it's not hitting the rest of these, The program itself doesn't recognize it. So no matter what you do, when you erase or remove the effect, we're actually renaming these sliders, by the way, to hide and show, because it's just kind of misleading that you can actually add a star, because you really can't. What you can do is you can reveal it or you can hide it. And so that's really what you're working with this, with these options here. You're not able to actually, just because you erase right here doesn't mean that, you know, in the next area it's going to show anything else, because nothing else is being detected, and if it's not detected, it's not possible to show it. Richard says, if you have one light source and one small light source, does the program consider it as two light sources, or does the large light source encompass more the one light source? Richard, I think you're asking, it does consider it as two light sources. If you have one large light source and one small, what it's going to do is take that large light source and it's going to create a larger effect than it will on the smaller light source. So for example, in this particular image, this larger light source and this dewdrop right here in the middle is going to be much larger than it would on this smaller light source over here in the smaller dewdrop. So that, I think that's what you're asking, and it will notice those. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for coming to Quick Tip Thursday. I hope you join us next week. And if you have any questions, again, write us at webinars@topazlabs.com. And I hope to see you at a future webinar. Take care.